Welcome back, everybody. Today, have a little bit of time between shooting and hunting and work. Thought I'd make another video on this gun, just kind of some thoughts of mine since I've had it for a couple of days now. I mean, it's not a long-term review by any means, but I've done a lot to it in a short amount of time I've owned it. So I figured I'd bring you guys in, kind of show you what's going on, what I think about this rifle. So first off, I'd like to start by saying that I think this rifle is awesome. It is a tack driver. It's incredibly accurate, and I've had several duplicate shots on the Crony because that regulated portion of that rifle's really doing its job, just really making sure that shots are within 1 or 2 feet per second. I'm serious, that's the spread on this rifle. It's very, very precise. Being regulated, I'm getting, with my power tune set the way I have it, I'm getting probably, I counted it, it's like 13 or 14 shots before I start to drop below the regulated pressure. So that's really impressive, I think. I'm shooting a 93 grain, right there, Nelson Specialty ammo. It's their hollow point. I'm shooting that at about 900 feet per second. I'm in that 888, 893 feet per second range. And I think that's somewhere the 160 to 170 foot-pounds of energy. I can't remember anymore. But I did have it calculated out pretty well. It does pretty decent. And the rifle's sighted in at 65 yards, and I'm putting in one hole shots, probably 3 or 4 shots in a hole, I guess. We'll put it that way. So incredibly accurate rifle, very happy with it. The price point I think is worth it. I really do. It's a very affordable rifle if you consider what it comes with. So that being said, last time you guys seen this rifle, didn't have the scope on it, but I told you I was going to put on it. Didn't have the Donnie FL suppressor on there, or moderator, whatever you want to call it. So, and I hadn't sighted in or filled it up. So we'll go back a little bit of time here. I went, shot this thing, got it all sighted in, started messing around with the regulator, and you have to unscrew this, bleed all the air out of the regulator here, turn this out a little bit and start bleeding the air out. And then you can adjust the regulator in here once you get this tube off the tank. So did that, played around with it quite a bit. I think the gun came at 180 bar, and I got it just a little over 200. It's about 210 bar right now. And that's about the max I can get. If I tweak it a little bit more, I might be able to get a touch more power out of it. But the regulator is so sensitive, and it takes so long to drain the air and unthread the bottle and thread it back on, fill it back up, that I got tired of doing that. I probably did it about 10 times, maybe more. So, but I went from all over the board. I mean, if you go above 210, in my experience here, the regulator can't withstand pressures, I guess, from where it's set. Like 210 is almost the max it can handle. If you go above that, like you screw in more to get more power, it'll air over it, I guess. Like it'll follow this gauge down here. If you fill it to 4,500 PSI, this regulator gauge will be at 4,500 PSI. And then what you get is you get a valve lock here. The hammer spring in here isn't strong enough to overcome the pressure in the tank to allow some air through the valve. So I found that out. I had to go back in and keep on turning that regulator screw in another, eighth turn, quarter turn, until I finally got it back into that regulator range that it wants to be in. So I did mess around with the hammer spring. I tried to pull it out and stretch it. That did work, but it seems like it's not a nice spring steel. It's almost like it's a softer steel of a spring material, because I pulled it back out 2 or 3 different times, and that spring had returned back to its original shape. So, which I guess they all kind of do to some degree, but some of them stay stretched better than others, and that one just did not. So it didn't help out, like you won't be able to stretch it and get away with it type deal. So I might look eventually for a heavier spring, providing I can get a different regulator at some point as an upgrade to get, it'd be cool to get 250 bar on the regulator. I think you'd be able to get 1,000 feet per second with a 120 grain pellet maybe, I don't know. Anyways, that's down the road. But for now, done shooting accurately, we're ready to hunt. I already took it out hunting once. The Donnie FL is a huge upgrade. It's my first ever suppressor, and I am blown away by how quiet it makes this gun. I have chopped off this front rail, as you can tell there. We chopped that off to allow the scope to sit a little bit further down. What I had to do when I first got this rifle is I didn't have the right rings that I wanted for this rifle. I had them coming, but they hadn't arrived yet. And then I was originally going to take off these dovetail to Picatinny mounts right here. And these things right here, if you pull these off, you know, you get much better natural sight alignment, closer to bore, all the good stuff. But I found out when I stick this mag in there, I didn't have any clearance between the scope and that. So I don't know if you can see that. I think you can. But there's just not a whole lot of room there. So what I had to end up doing is I had to put those back on. And all I had laying around, because I had bought dovetail rings to set my scope down lower. So dovetails weren't going to work. And all I had was some UTG extra high 30mm rings from Picatinny, so I used that for a while. But I basically had to put my chin on top of this, what do you want to call it, cheek weld area there. I can't think what it's called right now. Anyways, I had to put my chin almost on here just to get that sight picture that I wanted, so I could look through the scope without shadowing. Anyways, these showed up, just mounted those on today actually, resighted the rifle back in, and using the stock, I get perfect sight alignment just the way I'm comfortable. I mean, I can set my cheek right on there. I'm looking right through that scope just like God intended. But I had to hack that rail away because this bell here, I believe it's the ocular lens, is so big, it's a 50mm, that was going to hit, and I would not be able to get my scope tight with the ring. So I adjusted that, cut it off, you know. Yeah, it's working well now, but just a little bit of modifications. I didn't really want to do it, but I had to, because I care about precision over looks, I guess, and I kind of have to have what's natural, what's comfortable, so I can shoot better. So that's what I had to do to get it set up the way it is now. But now the rifle's, I mean, this is a fantastic shooter. I'm going to keep it this way. Besides the fact that I am changing this out, which I don't want to, but it's aluminum, it's cold. I got a nylon or polymer, I guess we'd call it polymer. One of these come in, I think it's coming in 2 more days from now. But anyways, I might put that on, maybe not. But this kind of rattles a little bit. But if you're not moving it around or anything, or you can set your rifle down on the ground if you're hunting, and you just don't have to mess around with it a whole lot, it'll be all right. So I didn't think it was too loud for whenever I was hunting. So that's pretty much it for what I've done. I mean, I've played around with the regulator, like I mentioned. I played around with the power wheel here, and I'll do a whole other video on that at some point. But really, the factory almost has it perfect where it's at. I didn't want to believe it myself whenever I heard other people say the same thing. I'm kind of stubborn, so I decided to try it myself, and I did get 20 more bar to 30 more bar improvement, which is huge, but it wasn't enough to do what I was hoping. But I still got over 100 feet per second more speed out of this rifle than what factory had it set at. So no regrets whatsoever, but I went on a long journey. I spent 3 hours playing around with this part and this part, trying to get it set for the most power. And it's not frustrating if you have an air compressor, but if you're pumping it up by hand, you're gonna kill yourself. So we did that. I got it set where I like it. We might play with it a little bit later in a later video and try to see if I can get maybe another 10 bar out of it. We don't know. So I did that. There is one thing I don't like about this gun, and I will show you the fill probe here. It's external, which I think is dumb. It's got the 2 O-rings, comes with extra O-rings, which I'm glad. But you gotta fill this rifle, and I showed this in the first video when I unboxed it. You stick it right in here. You gotta be gentle, kind of gently work it in until it fits in like that. Well, I was filling this rifle up with my compressor. Me and my wife were out here talking. This is when I was doing all my power testing, and this thing just shot right out. I mean, it was still held on by the hose, but it had built like 3,000 PSI, so it sounded like something blew and just popped right out. I mean, the O-rings are, everything is fine. I still haven't changed anything on it, and it hasn't done that to me since, but somehow it worked its way out. So it's just a little scary like that. Plus, there's one more thing to lose. Like, you got to take that thing with you everywhere you go. You know, in your bag, your hunting bag, whatever. So I don't like that. It'd be nice if I could stay in there, and it does stick out too far just to stay in there. You'll probably bust it off on something if you drop it on a rock. But put a little dust cover on it, or, you know, mount it on a 45-degree angle here or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't care for this. This is something to get lost, and it's something that you can cut those O-rings on. Every time you use it, you run the risk of breaking it, losing it, or something. So that being said, I am very happy with the gun. Other than that, I do think the shrouded barrel here is kind of ridiculous. It's kind of a dumb thing to have. I noticed when I was shooting, I was getting like a little bit of a rattle. So started playing around with it, turning stuff, and I found out the threaded end cap that comes with the gun came loose. This was loose, this was turning. I was getting a little bit of vibration. So it does make the gun look nice, that's about it, but I'm not a big fan of this either. I mean, the barrel is much smaller than this shroud is, so I mean, your barrel's actually not contacting this tank, but because it's internally threaded from the end cap, now the suppressor, but from the end cap originally to this shroud, and now you're hitting this tank, and the barrel is actually resting on this right now as we speak. So because it's like that, I mean, you're not having bullet contact or anything, but your barrel's not truly free floated. So I'm not a huge fan of that. It could be better, and they do sell barrel bands. I might pick one up, but then you have still contact. You're really just doing the same thing, but then it's maybe a more consistent, because now if I put my thumb over here, you're gonna press down on that barrel, you're gonna change that dynamic of that barrel. So I can't think of the word I'm trying to say for that, but you're gonna change the way that barrel harmonics goes. That's what I was looking for. So with that on there, that changed it too, because it added weight to that barrel. Now it slumped it down even more. So it'd be nicer to have a little more distance between the barrel and that stock fore-end air tank, you know. So really like the gun. Hope it don't sound like I'm complaining, but it shoots every single one of these pellets, slugs, incredibly accurate. I mean, very, very accurate. I'm so happy. Loading these are a little bit different. I haven't loaded one of these before, so it took me a second to figure it out. The gun comes with no instructions. It was not hard to figure out. It just took me a second because I thought it would go a different way than what it did, but it worked out just fine. So we'll do some chrony testing, some groove testing. I will show you how to adjust the regulator, and I might try to find a heavier spring. And then we might be able to try a heavier and lighter spring to see what the difference is, but I'm going for the most power here. I'm not trying to find that, you know, 30 round gun before I have to fill it back up. If this thing only got 4 accurate shots, I'd be happy with that too, providing they're very accurate, like very consistent. But I want power. I want 200 plus foot-pounds out of a gun like this. I know this gun probably can't do it, but that's what my goal would be. If per se I could mod this gun, I would be happy to see that number, very happy. I feel a little better about hunting with it for deer. But thank you all for watching. I appreciate all you guys' likes and comments. Please keep them coming if you want to see anything. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It will help me grow and help other people see content like this. So I appreciate everything you do. Thank you. Have a good day.